Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's some new developments as of this morning. Did you see those?
No, I didn't. Now we are live, but yeah.
Okay.
No, what did they? Yeah, tell me, because maybe this will bring some more people in. What new developments are there? We'll
Uh,
rehash those out.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's still kind of fog of war, but Mandiant put out this morning, and I can link this. Will this link in the chat?
Yeah, that sounds
Um,
great.
yeah, they put out this morning that the original infection vector for 3CX was trading software
Oh,
that one of their users had downloaded on their personal PC. Then the Lazarus Group, North Koreans, pivoted and used that attack to create a new supply chain attack with 3CX.
oh
So,
wow.
one supply chain attack begets another, I guess, is the point of that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see what we got here. If we've got anybody in yet. So that's fascinating. So I'll go ahead and just introduce us as we're getting started. We'll see as people trickle in. But my name is John Hansman with Truett, and I'm here with Patrick, who is VP of Security Research and Intelligence at Total. Total is a partner of ours, and we do quite a bit of. They handle our security for our clients, and so. Everything that we install when we're taking care of clients as far as advanced protection, antivirus is run through this partner. And so the reason why we're here today is we're going to talk about supply chain attacks, and we're going to talk a little bit about what they are. And so stay tuned. We're not going to get started for 1 more minute. So if you're live, I see we've got some people hopping on now. On the Facebook. If you're live, don't go anywhere, because I know in this limbo stage, you're like, what are these guys? What are these yahoos doing? and so I want to make sure that you guys know what's coming. But we're going to talk a bunch, only for about half hour. So we're not going to take up your whole day, but we're going to talk a little bit about supply chain attacks. And the big topic of conversation is, why does this matter to you? And we might, I will probably throw that article into on my other screen over here, and I'll throw it in the queue so that we can look at it in a little bit. So let's throw that on here real quick. So now it can be. Oh, look at that! It just popped it on.
Look at that. Fancy.
I know. Dude, this thing's pretty sweet. So if you're, for anybody who's watching. So also, if you're online, throw a comment below, say hi to us, and we are super happy to chat with you. And if you have any questions as we're going along, throw those in the chat as well, and we'll make sure your questions get answered before we end today. So stay tuned. And we're going to go live. We are live. And we're going to go start with our presentation here in about 30 seconds. And then we'll go from there. Cool. Okay. Hey, another person's hopping on. Questions here. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to talk. I'll introduce myself again. My name is John Hansman, and I'm the owner of Truett, the CEO and founder. And I'm here with Patrick, who is the VP of Security Research and Intelligence over at Total. Can you first, Patrick, tell me a little bit about who Total is and what you guys do, and then just to set the stage for why should I listen to Patrick? That's the question. That's the question that people are going to ask themselves.
My wife asks that question every night, I think.
Yeah. Why should I listen to Patrick on this conversation about supply chain attacks?
Yeah. So thanks, John. first, yeah, Total is an all-in-one SecOps platform. That's kind of how I describe it. We have a bunch of different products under the Total umbrella. The real differentiator is one agent, one portal. You get your endpoint security, SIM, logging, SASE, zero trust networking, VPN, everything all in one platform. And so we do a lot over here when it comes to security and the security operations. From the people aspect, we have our MXDR platform where we have 24/7 coverage, SOC, looking at threats. And that's how we found this 3CX attack in the supply chain. As far as myself, I've been in cybersecurity for 20 plus years now, dating myself, back to the late 90s. I've done everything from blue team to red team to purple team. Was a pen tester for the intelligence community. I got to hack satellite systems. And if you want to, find me at a conference or whatever and have a couple beers talking about satellites and how to hack them, we can certainly do that. So yeah, I've been doing this a long time. And what attracted me to Total was that all-in-one aspect and bringing enterprise level cybersecurity all the way down to the small and mid-sized businesses, right? Which is the sweet spot here. So loving what I'm doing, and the supply chain attack was kind of the first thing since I joined Total that was a major internet story, and we were right in the thick of it.
I love it. And I always, it's funny is I've always watched movies and I always thought about being they always say the hacker movies where people are just on their computers attacking and, they're attacking now. Okay, we got to fight them. And it's not, it's a little bit like that. There's moments where there's things are happening and they're unfolding rapidly.
Yeah.
But I think most of what we're doing is prevention.
Yeah.
And we're just looking through activity that users trigger to make sure that it's nothing malicious, but the day-to-day, most of the time, isn't that. And I know you guys were busy because I was getting a lot of emails when this whole 3CX thing started. So we're going to talk a little bit, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to post some questions up on the screen. So the first question that we're talking about, which is hopefully why people are here, is what is a supply chain attack? Let's talk about what a supply chain attack is, so the average business owner, the average manager can understand what they are and why they should be paying attention to this conversation that we're having.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when I think of a supply chain attack, I think of it in terms of a stream, right? I think of it in terms of how an attacker wants to maximize the number of people they can attack with one campaign, right? So when you're upstream and you attack a software vendor, for example, in this case, 3CX, you can attack all of their customers at once, right? We've seen this with major attacks against open source repositories. We've seen it with the major attack against SolarWinds a couple of years ago. Supply chain attacks are becoming more and more prevalent. And really what they are is infecting the software that you'll install. The holy grail for a threat actor would be to infect a Microsoft update package, for example, or something that's ubiquitous like Slack or Microsoft Teams or something like that. So, in this case, it was the voice over IP telephony software that's used by 600,000 customers, whether that's individual or businesses. So they got access to all of the customers to 3CX through one hack. And that's really what the definition of a supply chain attack is.
Do we know what their motive was? I know the answer to this, but let's talk a little bit about the motive behind what they were trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
My understanding was they were actually looking mainly to try to get Bitcoin wallets. That was the main purpose from what I understand. So they're trying to collect information off servers, off computers, off things like that. And I think what most people may not realize, okay, if they can get Bitcoin wallets, they can get everything else.
Yeah.
And if you're a medical facility, like say you're a big Kaiser Permanente, which recently had a hack, about 6 months ago, or you're one of the large medical businesses or even a small medical business, this means that all of your information is compromised, not just what they're trying to grab. They're
Yeah.
going to grab as much as they can and use whatever they have.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, this attacker is Lazarus Group. They go by a bunch of different names out of North Korea. Their main motivation is financial, right? As you mentioned, looking to grab crypto wallets, those types of things. And that was actually confirmed this morning. A little bit of breaking news this morning from Mandiant on the fact that they got initial access to 3CX through trading software that they had injected malicious software into. So, it's their main motivation was financial, right? They were going after normal crypto wallets, Coinbase, those types of things with an info stealer. But like you said, that's stage one. Stage two could be ransomware. Stage three could be stealing data and holding that for ransom. Stage four could be extortion, right? So, I mean, once they get a foothold into these systems, they're absolutely going to steal more data, look for other financial gains that they could leverage access to these machines too. So, I think as a state actor, as a state funded actor, we have to be careful about assuming intent, right? But the history here has been, yes, they're financially motivated and they love stealing Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the other coins, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the indicators. So you, like you said earlier, were right in the thick of this supply chain attack. What were some of the first indicators that you saw? Remember, let's keep it simple, but what were some of the first things that you saw that tipped you off? Like, let's do a quick 2 minutes of the timeline of this whole 3CX attack from beginning to end, and explain to our small businesses how quick this happened and what you guys did to kind of prevent this from being a bigger thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the 23rd of March, we started seeing malware prevention events from our endpoint software. And what was interesting was it was firing on legitimate software downloads. So any other installer that you would download from a website and install, that's what we saw these malicious events on, right? At that time, we didn't know that it was a supply chain attack. So looking for indicators of supply chain attack is quite difficult, right? But as time went on, we were blocking that malicious activity with the installer and working with our partners to understand what was going on. CrowdStrike put up on Reddit that they attributed this to a supply chain attack, and they attributed it to the Lazarus Group. So at that point, it was kind of shields up, red alert, full all hands on deck. What the heck is going on here? And, as we looked through it, we saw, there are malicious components to this legitimate signed piece of software that folks are installing, right? Yeah. So we went full court press protecting our customers, as you mentioned, sending out emails, live blogging it, Slacking and Teams, all of our customers saying, hey, we're on top of this. All the IOCs are being blocked by the Total platform. We're investigating it. We actually got copies of the software from partners and started picking it apart and looking at what the malicious components were. So as far as like looking for indicators, you really need that behavioral piece of security to give you that initial thing that's like, okay, here's the kernel of what something really advanced and malicious might be from a supply chain perspective.
Yeah, and I think you and I had a really good conversation a couple of days ago about what you guys did in the initial indication before you knew there was a supply chain attack, that you guys actually took steps to look at what had triggered Total. And isolate the actual issues that you potentially could see as potentially malicious, even though you didn't know that they were at the time.
Yeah.
Let's do 15 seconds on that, because I thought that was super fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. We were blocking the malicious activity on the systems without preventing the VoIP software from running. So, a lot of our customers use this software for call centers, for critical pieces of their business, right? So we don't want to block that software, but we blocked the malicious activity and allowed that critical business software to run. So while we were investigating, seeing if this was malicious, right? Because, we get false positives all the time. That's the kind of the downside of behavioral endpoint detection and response, right? Some things that are legitimate might look malicious and vice versa, right? So
Right.
While we were investigating, we were allowing the folks to keep their businesses afloat and run their VoIP software while blocking the malicious activity and not allowing that what we call command and control. So the attacker can get hands on keyboard, like you mentioned. When when it hits the fan, that's when folks are actually typing and running commands on your system as malicious actors.
And I think what's fascinating and what's really cool about this whole event, if you can call it that, is the fact that the cybersecurity community really came together, and you guys were sharing information amongst one another. As far as I know to date, I can't confirm to this, but I've not heard of anything coming of this. I don't know if you have, of where the North Koreans were actually successful in gathering what they were looking for. And I would attribute the minimal attack vector of this to cybersecurity experts seeing it, talking to each other, and being active in how they were pursuing fixing this and keeping customers safe. I think that a huge credit goes to the cybersecurity community, because then also 3CX obviously is now they're working diligently to fix their software, eliminate the attack, and re-push out a updated update so that they can get that malicious part out of their software. I don't know how quickly they turned around, but I know you guys were able to block things and allow the software to run before it was official and before 3CX could fix their software. That's
before even they acknowledged the fact that it was malicious.
Yeah.
So, it's I don't want to bash a vendor here, because it could happen to anybody, a supply chain attack from an advanced attacker.
Correct.
Right. So, folks were posting in their forums, hey, my endpoint protection software is saying that your updater is malicious. What's going on here?
Right.
And, their customer service folks, well, we deal with antivirus and endpoint protection all the time. Go to your vendor, that kind of thing. And then when CrowdStrike confirmed it, then they really kind of got on top. But they released an update to both their Mac and Windows updaters within, I would say, 48 hours of confirming that it was an actual attack,
which is pretty quick, and that's pretty amazing. I think the thing that, and this is the reason why we're doing this live stream, and the reason why we're having this conversation and trying to get businesses to watch and listen, is the fact that this is just one example of where supply chain attacks are going to become a bigger thing. Yeah. And I think this is, you said this is your first one since you've been working for Total. We're going to see more. And we say this on a regular basis, and I tell clients this on a regular basis. It's not a matter of when, or rather if, you're going to have a cyber attack on your business or some type of attack, whether it's phishing emails that are successful or whether it's something that where someone tries to get into your Office 365 environment, or in this case, someone gets into, think about some of the big ones that are common that everybody uses. QuickBooks. What if somebody gets into it?
Yeah.
What if somebody gets into, you mentioned Microsoft Teams or some of the other things. What happens if one of those things happen to have a similar attack? Would you be susceptible just like this happened? And so what we're trying to just talk to business owners about is you need to be ready, because more and more people are going to be looking for targets that can do more bang for their buck. And that's really what supply chain attacks are about. It's not about attacking one individual. It's about how much can we collect from one big attack on one type of business and grab as much information as we can to do the most damage and collect the most information and make the most money. And it was fascinating. I was thinking about this. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and they talked about how things have changed. Back when we started really seeing viruses for the first time, it was about, "Ooh, look at me. I can hack your system, or I can spread this around." And now the motivation is money.
Yeah.
And the hard and the scary part about this is people are actively trying to steal the money of small, medium-sized, and large businesses.
Yeah.
And without help, they're going to be successful.
Individuals as well. I'd lump individuals in there as well. It's often I see these financial stealers not only will go after businesses, and info stealers, banking Trojans. They'll go after individuals and businesses, right? So,
right, 100%.
Yeah, and you mentioned phishing. It's as a cybersecurity professional of 20 plus years, I'm disappointed that we haven't solved this darn phishing problem yet, right? We've kind of bolted on these security mechanisms around email, but still we see phishing attempts, right? And that really is the easiest way in for attackers.
I think what's going to be fascinating is some of what we're using to prevent phishing is AI. So it's looking for things like indicators that we know are normal phishing emails, maybe poor language, poor spelling. There's things like that our software will look for. And what I really find fascinating is what's going to happen with this new ChatGPT AI stuff.
Yeah.
Because you can have somebody who doesn't speak very good English ask ChatGPT for something, and it could spit out something with very well refined English. And we're already seeing this. I can tell you just from my filtering and my viewing of the clients that we have, the amount of attacks from phishing and the amount of emails has dramatically increased.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing that on the back end where they get stopped, but I've also seen ones that are getting through because they looked so much better than they did 7 months ago or 12 months ago. And so we're seeing just an increase of stuff that is harder to filter because it looks and it's showing less of the indicators. And unfortunately, these cyber criminals are actually getting a lot smarter, and they're finding more ways to get around filtering than they did before. And so I think this is why we take this multi-leveled approach in managed IT and IT in general. We want to put up not just one layer, not just filtering, but we want to put up a more than one layer to make sure that if they get to your filter, they have to get through Total. If they get through Total, they have to have a person involved to look at the activity. And it's not just one thing we're doing multiple things. So I think this brings up the question that we'll probably end with, because we're going to end up, I don't want to go too long unless people have questions. We'll save some time for that. And again, if anybody out there, if you've got questions, stick them in the chat and we will get them answered either live here for a few minutes, or we'll get them answered directly. But what are some of the best practices that companies can implement today to prevent a supply chain cyber attack?
Yeah, I mean, John, you touched on it, right? Is a layered approach to defending your business, right? It's not just installing antivirus. It's not just having a firewall. It's not just having email protection. You need a layered approach to make sure that if one gate fails, as you mentioned, the other gates are backstops for you, right? So making sure you have that defense in depth approach to layering not just technology, but processes as well. Mm-hmm. I think every business at this point should think about and write down what happens if I get ransomware. What happens if I get hacked or a user gets hacked? What happens if my CFO or my finance folks their machines get compromised, right? Who do we call? What are our banks? How do we freeze any credit lines that might get compromised?
Right.
These are tabletop exercises I think everyone should go through from a process perspective, and from a best practices perspective.
Right.
Finding someone you trust, right? The supply chain's about trust too. You get attacked because you trust the vendor that's sending you that software that's already been infected, right?
Yeah.
You need to be able to trust your IT folks, your MSP. You need to be able to trust the software that you're running, and the security stack that you've chosen, right, or that's been chosen for you.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the biggest fear and the biggest thing I run across people who just don't have a security stack.
Yeah.
They don't have a plan. They're using QuickBooks. They're using online tools. They're using a lot of different software. And they have had this old thought that, okay, I've got antivirus. I've got a free version of Avast on my machine. And that's going to protect me from these new cyber attacks that are out there. And the reality is that's not true. We're seeing that traditional antivirus does not look at behavior. And I think that's the thing that people need to understand, is that the way you were able to find this hidden attack within software was because of behavior. It was not because of a traditional antivirus software that basically just compares known viruses with what's on the computer and goes, oh, yep, that's one. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, we're going to stop that thing. It's literally a behavior based, where you're looking at something and saying that behavior is not normal for this software or for any software. And so we need to put a stop to it, and we need to figure out what's going on. And I think this is where most businesses don't have a plan. And I think that is the thing that Truett, and we're going to talk about that in the last 30 seconds, or last couple of minutes of this. This is where companies need to reach out to companies like ours, like Truett, and come up with a real plan. How are you, if QuickBooks, for example, I'll use them, and I'm not picking on them, but they're one of the most widely used softwares out there for a small business. Think about contractors. For most businesses use it because it connects with their CRM, it connects with other software, and they're using it to do their financials. What happens if that software gets compromised? Like, what are the repercussions if someone hides a bug in there that's now on your servers where you're keeping your other client data? Who's keeping you safe from that type of supply chain attack? Because it really, I believe, is not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when one of these larger companies gets attacked. And we're seeing it. We're seeing giant corporations who have huge security teams have a compromise. We're seeing security companies, people in the cybersecurity space, have cyber attacks and have actual issues with people. LastPass is a really great example of that, right?
Yeah.
They're one of the largest providers of password management, and they had a big issue just not long ago where people actually got into their development environment. And then now it turns out that they were able to get more information than what they have initially let on. Yeah. So if companies that are in security are being attacked, it really does mean that we have to have a layered approach. We can't have all our eggs in one basket. We can't have our head in the sand and think, well, I've been doing business for 35 years. It's not going to happen to me, because that's just not the reality that we live in anymore. And really, I firmly believe that people need to have a partner. Before we go, Patrick, are there any other things that you can think of that a small business, a business owner needs to know when looking at, the last thing I want is this to be scary doom and gloom.
Yeah. No,
I believe that putting the right steps in place can really keep businesses safe. I firmly believe that. That's why I do what I do. Is there anything you can think of? Maybe a couple of things that somebody could do today, or takeaways that we can take away from this event?
The lowest hanging fruit really is making sure your critical accounts are safe, right? your banking accounts, those types of things. Make sure you have two-factor authentication. Make sure you have a plan to secure those accounts. You touched on it a bit. I think the first step is knowing that you need a plan in your maturity kind of journey, right? So if you know that you really haven't taken security seriously, and maybe you have had an account get popped in the past, partnering with someone that can help you on that security maturity journey. And it is a journey, right? Everyone starts from zero, and you kind of go through, okay, what are the steps I need to take? Two-factor authentication, making sure I'm filtering out phishing emails, making sure my staff is trained to look at emails suspiciously and texts from people they might not know, right? Those types of basic low-hanging fruit, I think, is where businesses can start and really get a lot of headway from, just a small amount of work.
Right. I agree. I think that, like I said, the biggest thing that we want to make sure that we're doing is we need to have a plan, and we need to make sure that people understand and know what that plan is so they can be prepared for whatever comes. And this landscape is changing dramatically. It's crazy how fast things are changing. And I think the biggest thing that we want to be doing is just make sure that we're ready for it and that we are prepared. And so with that, Patrick, I'm so grateful that you came and joined me for this discussion. Super exciting. This will be hanging out in the world. So we'll see how many people it reaches long term. I think this is an important discussion, one that we're going to continue to have. Absolutely. Which is, how do you protect your business? And I think that one of the easiest ways is to give us a call. And so what's a live stream that a business puts on without a little bit of information about how to reach them? So if any of this rings true to you, who's watching this live stream, or you're watching this on Facebook now, and you're thinking, yeah, I don't really have a plan for if one of my softwares gets compromised, or if someone gets into my environment, or, one of the leading things that we're seeing today is still ransomware, which is encrypting computers and then telling people they need to pay money to get their information back. Or in the case of, it was a few years ago, but hospitals that literally got shut down in the UK completely. Yeah. Because they got ransomed. And so those are the types of things that we're trying to help small businesses prevent. So this is a way to reach me. The beautiful thing about this is that by working with Truett, you get security professionals like Patrick on your side, and you have a way of, you're not just getting Truett, you're not just getting this handsome bearded face, but you're getting another bearded face. And
you left out handsome. That's okay.
Joke, but another group of security professionals who are always watching, always looking. And in the case of 3CX, you guys saw this and took action before it was public. And you guys made some distinct steps that, had the North Koreans flipped the switch to start collecting data before it was public, your customers, our customers, would have been protected from this vulnerability. I think that's a really cool point, and a really cool thing to end with, is that having a security team, regardless of your size of business, whether you have 5 people or you've got 500 people, having a security team, having a partnership like with us and with Total, I think is a huge asset to your business, and it keeps your business and your assets safe from being stolen from these cyber criminals. So again, here's our phone number. If you want to reach out to me, John@Truett.io, or our local Olympia phone number, you can reach that, these days, regardless of where you lived, and we can help you regardless of what state you're in the United States. And so, Patrick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm probably going to invite you back. I'm going to invite you back, and hopefully you'll say yes, and we can have some more discussions about how to take care of small business.
It's my pleasure.
For those of you who are out there, I am going to be starting to do these live streams at this time. So we are 11:30 on a Thursday. So look forward to having more conversations with more people that are in this industry. 11:30 on Thursdays. And I look forward to just talking with you guys some more about the things that are going on. There's a lot happening in our world right now with cybersecurity. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of tools you can use. At the same time, there's a lot we can do to keep ourselves safe. So we're super excited to serve you, to help you. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out either by posting a comment, sending me a message on any of the platforms you're watching us. And we thank you very much.